Okay, that's fine.
We'd like to just let you know about Odette.
Oh, there you go.
She's a transactional attorney focusing on information technology. She was assistant general counsel for a major international recruiting firm after working as associate counsel at a leading technology law firm. Before becoming an attorney, Odette renegotiated film license agreements and was assistant corporate secretary for HBO. She also has an MBA in finance from the Stern Graduate School of Business at New York University and is a graduate of Barnard College, affiliated with Columbia University. So we're pleased to have her here. So listen, you can be signing petitions and looking at things, but please listen to what she has to say because it's important.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming, Odette.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction, and I'm delighted to be here. I'm going to take this talk in a little bit of a different direction from what we've been hearing so far. I'm here to talk about the NDAA, which is the National Defense Authorization Act of 2012. When we think of national security, we think, what is going to make us more safe? All too often, the government's response is to continuously erode our civil liberties. David Shipler, former New York Times correspondent, talks about the false dichotomy of national security versus civil liberties in his op-ed piece, The Rights of the People, How Our Search for Safety Invades Our Liberties. The false dichotomy is that in order to be more secure, we need to give up civil rights. And as Shipler says, but whose rights do we think we're giving up? The theory, he says, is that I can give up your rights for my safety, apprehend the terrorist, and protect the upstanding citizen. But it's just a matter of time before it creeps into the rest of society through legislation and court decisions. Since 9/11, we've seen a gradual erosion of civil liberties for Americans. The most recent is the National Defense Authorization Act of 2012, or the NDAA. The NDAA allows for the indefinite detention of individuals without trial, far from any battlefield, without geographical limitations. That means that even Americans may be arrested and detained by U.S. armed forces on U.S. soil. This violates many major tenets of the Bill of Rights. If you are arrested and detained, you are no longer presumed innocent. You do not have a right to a fair trial. There's no right of habeas corpus, no Fifth Amendment right to due process, no Sixth Amendment right to stand trial in a civil court, have access to counsel, or to confront your accusers. President Obama's signing statement, interestingly, said that the administration will not authorize the indefinite military detention without trial of American citizens. Well, that's very nice. But will future administrations abide by that? Not necessarily. It goes against what James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, and others who were hoping to achieve with the Bill of Rights, the protection of individual liberties against the encroachments by the federal government. The NDAA does grant a waiver to take an individual out of indefinite detention and place them in civilian courts. But this is a catch-22 situation because the law prohibits using federal monies to move these individuals out of indefinite detention, which makes the waiver meaningless. And there are a number of organizations who are opposed to the NDAA, even the FBI, federal prosecutors, and the military, who really don't want to be in the business of arresting Americans. Now let's put this into context with other laws that have limited our civil liberties since 9/11. The John Warner National Defense Authorization Act of 2007 allows the president to bring U.S. troops on U.S. soil. This, in effect, overturns the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878, which does not allow U.S. troops on U.S. soil. President Bush enacted it purportedly to restore order in the event of natural disasters or acts of terrorism and other conditions. And how about the Military Commissions Act of 2006, which allows the president to name any American an enemy combatant and take them out of the constitutional system and put them through military tribunals. Again, without any of the Bill of Rights protections and no right of habeas corpus. And then we have the Animal Enterprise Terrorism Act of 2006, which provides terrorism enhancements for anyone interfering with an animal enterprise or causing it profit loss. An animal enterprise is any entity that uses animals or animal products for food, fiber production, entertainment, testing. It turns the First Amendment on its head, and the more successful your boycott is against an animal enterprise, the more time you spend in prison, up to 20 years, for just over $1 million in profit loss. As Benjamin Franklin said, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. The Bill of Rights needs to be recreated by each generation, and it needs to be protected. Otherwise, it just becomes words on the page, because if you don't use your rights under the Bill of Rights, you lose it. Yes, sir.
I just have one comment. If you are registered Democrat or Republican, you are 1%. You are part of the problem.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Okay, any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, one thing is that, you did a very good job of persuading us that a lot of these laws are bad. The question is, what do we do about it?
Question is,
The question is, what do we do about these national security laws? The best thing to do is to talk to your state legislators, your federal legislators, and get together in order to make sure that these laws are not enacted in the first place. Once they're enacted, it's a little bit more difficult to repeal, but it's very important that they hear from you, because what we've been hearing is that they're not hearing from people. And even though we do have a bi-party system, the Democrats and the Republicans, and it seems like they seem to be more and more similar as time goes on, there seems to be less and less differentiation. The problem is that's the way that you get your voice heard at the table, and that's what you need to do. Dianne Feinstein was the primary Democratic sponsor for the Animal Enterprise Terrorism Act. She is one of the go-to people for civil liberties in Congress. The other go-to person for civil liberties in Congress in the House is Bobby Scott. He was the primary Democratic sponsor in the House for the Animal Enterprise Terrorism Act. It is very important that you let Dianne Feinstein know that she really made a very big mistake with this law, and she needs to be on board to repeal it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.